Arab executive offered $1 million for one night with an African masseur. His secret shocked her. When a mysterious Arab billionaire walked into a struggling massage parlor in Nairobi, no one expected him to single out Amina, a quiet, hard-working woman just trying to support her family. What he said next froze the entire room. "I'll pay you $1 million for one night." But this wasn't what it seemed. As the hours passed, Amina uncovered a secret about this man that changed everything. A truth so personal, so devastating, it shook her to her core. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. This helps us bring more powerful stories like this straight to you. Are you ready for a story about pride, pain, and the moment when a simple woman looked into the heart of a broken billionaire? The massage parlor was silent, except for the ticking fan that struggled to cool the thick Nairobi air. Amina wiped her hands on a clean towel, exhaustion written across her face. It was her 6th client of the day, and the heat didn't help. She had been working here for nearly 4 years, never imagining that anything in her life would change. Not fast, anyway. Then, just before closing time, the door opened. Everyone turned. He didn't belong there. That much was clear. Tall, olive-skinned, in an all-white designer thobe and polished Italian loafers. His beard was sharp, his sunglasses expensive. But what struck Amina the most was the way he looked around. Not arrogant like the others who flaunted their wealth, but searching, as if he were lost. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked, her voice trembling under the weight of his presence. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he took off his sunglasses, revealing dark, tired eyes. Eyes that had seen too much. "I'm looking for the woman with the strongest hands," he said, his accent refined, calm. "Her name is Amina." Amina froze. She had never seen this man before. She didn't advertise, didn't take private clients. She had no social media. Yet here he was, asking for her by name. She stepped forward slowly. "I'm Amina." He turned to her, eyes locking. There was a moment of silence. Then he said it. "I will pay you $1 million for a single night of your time." The room went dead silent. Her co-workers blinked, some gasped. The receptionist dropped her pen. One of the other girls let out a nervous laugh. Amina just stood there. "Excuse me?" she said finally. "Not for anything improper," the man continued. "I don't want your body. I want your presence, your energy, your hands." It sounded ridiculous, a joke, a trap, a test. But he was dead serious. She narrowed her eyes. "What exactly do you want from me?" He reached into his pocket and placed a business card on the counter. Gold foil, embossed. The kind of card you don't throw away. "Please, one night. I'll explain everything. I'll send a car for you." Amina looked at the name. Sami al-Rashid, CEO of an international energy conglomerate, one of the wealthiest men in the Middle East. There had been articles about him, mysterious disappearances, business scandals, even whispers about personal tragedies. "This is insane," she muttered, but her hands were trembling. She thought of her mother, still recovering from surgery, her brothers in school, the rent she was 3 months behind on. "Why me?" she asked. Sammy looked straight into her eyes. "Because you touched someone I loved. Years ago. You don't remember me, but I remember you." And with that, he turned and walked out. That night, Amina didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, trying to recall who he was. Had she seen him before? A relative of a client, a journalist undercover. Her mind raced with theories. None of them made sense. At exactly 7:00 p.m. the next evening, a black SUV arrived at the address scribbled on a piece of paper Sammy had left. It was a villa just outside the city, large, secluded, with guards at the gate. Amina hesitated. This could be dangerous. But something deep in her chest whispered, "Go." She stepped into the car, heart pounding. And as the gates closed behind her, she had no idea that tonight she wouldn't just change her own life. She was about to uncover the truth that haunted a billionaire's soul for Ferramentas. The black SUV rolled silently through the gates, past a manicured garden lined with white lilies, into a property that felt like a different world. Amina gripped the leather seat beneath her. She had been to upscale homes before, politicians, wealthy clients. But this was different. Everything here was too quiet. The driver, who hadn't said a word since picking her up, stopped in front of a modern villa built with sleek lines of stone and glass. It shimmered under the Nairobi moonlight, but there was no warmth in its beauty, just silence and shadows. The door opened. A man in a black suit bowed gently. "Miss Amina, please follow me." Inside, the house smelled faintly of oud and citrus. It was almost too clean, too perfect. No photos on the walls, no family portraits, just cold design and expensive emptiness. They led her to a room upstairs, a sitting area dimly lit, with 2 armchairs facing each other near a large window. The skyline was distant but visible. On the table between the chairs, a silver tray with 2 glasses of mint tea, untouched. And there he was. Sami al-Rashid stood by the window, his hands behind his back, watching the dark city. Amina didn't speak at first. She just studied him. He wasn't intimidating in the traditional sense. There was a weight to him, yes, like someone who had carried too much for too long. But there was no arrogance, no lust in his gaze, just pain, held together by the threads of control. He turned slowly. "Thank you for coming." Amina's voice was steady, but her heart raced. "You offered $1 million. I thought I should at least hear what for." Sammy nodded once. "Fair enough." He gestured toward one of the chairs. She sat. He did the same. For a moment, he just stared at her. It made her skin prickle. Then he said, "6 years ago, my wife died." The words landed like bricks in the silence. "She was Kenyan," he continued, "born in Mombasa. She came from nothing. I met her while I was traveling here on business. She was working in a small massage clinic outside the city. She had strong hands, just like yours." Amina blinked. Her chest tightened. "What was her name?" "Zara," he said softly. "Zara Muli." Amina's breath caught. She remembered Zara, not her face, but the name. A woman who came in with lower back pain, but ended up staying for hours. They had talked, laughed. She had been gentle, but sad, as if she were hiding something behind her smiles. "I treated her once," Amina whispered. "Maybe twice." Sammy smiled, a broken smile. "She spoke of you often. Said you were the only one who ever touched her without pity." Amina swallowed hard. The air in the room felt heavier now. Sammy leaned forward. "She was dying when I met her. Leukemia. But she hid it. She didn't want anyone's sympathy, not even mine. By the time I found out, it was too late." He looked down at his hands. "She made me promise one thing, to return here one day and find you." Amina couldn't speak. "I spent years trying to erase the pain, built empires, buried myself in work, but I couldn't forget her, or the way she looked when she talked about you. So I came back, not to buy your time, but to give you what I should have given her: respect, honor, and closure." Tears stung Amina's eyes. She shook her head slowly. "You don't owe me anything." "But I do," Sammy said. "Zara died with regrets, not because of what she lacked, but because of what she wished she had the chance to repay. You were kind to her, when no one else was. That means something to me." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded letter. She wrote this: "For you." Amina's hands trembled as she opened it. The paper was fragile, the ink slightly smudged, but the words were clear. "If he finds you, know that I never forgot what you gave me. Peace in a time of fear. I hope one day someone touches your soul the way you touched mine." Amina pressed the letter to her chest. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Sammy replied. "Just let me give you this night, not as a payment, but as a memory, for her." Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. And as Amina looked into the eyes of the man who had lost everything but his word, she realized this night would be nothing like what she had feared. It would be something far deeper. Rain began tapping gently against the glass walls of the villa as Amina sat with the letter still in her hands. She hadn't cried yet. not because she didn't feel the weight of Zara's words, but because she didn't know how to hold all that grief and gratitude at once. It was too much, too sudden, too strange. Sammy remained still in his seat across from her, the silver tray of untouched tea, now cold between them. There was something about him that was unraveling, slowly, quietly. He no longer looked like a billionaire or a man in control of anything. He looked like someone who had been carrying a coffin inside him for years and had just started to open it. "She used to say your hands were healing," he said. "But tonight, I think it's mine that need it." Amina hesitated. "You want a massage?" He nodded once. "Yes, but not in the usual way, not like a client, just like a man who's tired." There was no seduction in his tone, no expectation, just vulnerability. She stood without a word and motioned toward the far end of the room where a padded chaise had been placed beneath a skylight. The storm clouds above muted the moonlight, but a soft lamp cast a warm glow across the space. It felt sacred, almost. "Take off the jacket," she said gently. "Lie face down." He obeyed without hesitation. As he lay there in silence, shirtless now, Amina took a moment to observe him, not as a rich man, but as a human. His back was lean and muscular, but marked. Old scars, a curved line across his shoulder blade, another near his lower spine. These weren't business wounds, these were personal. She placed her palms flat against his shoulder blades. His breath hitched, not from pain, but from the sudden intimacy of being touched without judgment. "You carry more than grief," she whispered. "I carry guilt," he replied. She pressed gently into the muscle beneath her thumbs, finding knots of tension that felt like hardened emotion. "Tell me." He paused, then began slowly. "I married her knowing I couldn't save her, but I thought money could buy time, comfort, maybe even hope. But all she ever wanted was peace. And I kept dragging her around the world, to specialists, to clinics, like she was some investment I couldn't afford to lose." Amina moved lower along his back, her fingers methodical and caring. She didn't interrupt. "I wasn't there when she died," he continued. "She passed away in her sleep while I was on a call with Tokyo. I missed her final breath. I missed her hand reaching for mine." Amina closed her eyes briefly. The weight of his confession clung to the air like the smell of rain. "She forgave you," Amina said quietly. "You don't need my hands to know that." He turned his head slightly, his voice quieter now. "But I never forgave myself." Amina paused her hands, then leaned closer, placing one hand gently over his heart. "Then maybe that's what tonight is for," she said. "Not closure, but the beginning of something softer." He didn't answer, but his breathing deepened. Not sleep, release. For the next hour, Neither of them spoke. She worked in silence, allowing her hands to communicate what words never could. Every touch was deliberate, not clinical, but compassionate. She wasn't trying to fix him. She was just present. Something Zara must have recognized in her all those years ago. When she finally stopped, Sammy remained lying there, his eyes closed. "You stayed," he murmured. "I thought you'd leave." She sat down beside him. "I did too. But then I remembered her words." Sammy turned to face her, his expression softer than it had been all night. "Do you think she'd be proud of this moment?" Amina smiled, a tear finally slipping down her cheek. "I think she already is." Lightning flashed in the distance, briefly illuminating the room in silver light. Then, without warning, Sammy sat up. "There's something I need to show you," he said. "Something Zara wanted you to have. Something no one else has ever seen." He stood, walked to a locked drawer near the bookshelf, and pulled out a small wooden box. Inside was something that would change everything Amina thought she knew about Zara, and reveal the reason she had been chosen all along. Amina's fingers hovered just above the edge of the wooden box. It wasn't large, roughly the size of an old jewelry case, made of dark acacia wood, its edges worn smooth by time and touch. A faded gold emblem was carved into the top, a simple crescent moon wrapped around a small sun. Sammy placed it gently in her hands. His face was unreadable now, the softness from earlier replaced with something heavier. "She asked me to keep it hidden," he said, "until I found you." Amina opened the lid. Inside was a bundle of letters, tied with a faded blue ribbon, and an old Polaroid photograph resting on top. She picked it up carefully. In the photo, Zara sat on a beach, legs crossed, wind in her braids, a quiet smile on her face. Next to her, a little boy clung to her arm, beaming at the camera. His curls were wild, his skin a shade lighter than hers. Amina blinked. "She had a son?" Sammy nodded slowly. "Our son. His name is Zaid." Her breath caught in her throat. "She never told me." "She didn't tell anyone," Sammy said. "She wanted to protect him from the media, from my world, from the ugliness that surrounded my name." Amina stared at the photo, her eyes fixed on the boy's smile. It radiated something pure, free. "He's 11 now. Lives with his aunt in Mombasa," Sammy continued. "I visit him when I can, but he doesn't know who I am. Not really. Just a man who brings gifts and smiles for pictures." Amina's heart broke a little. "Zara wanted you to be part of his life. If anything ever happened to her, she said you were the only person she trusted. Someone who knew how to see the soul, not the status." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I'm no one," Amina whispered. "Just a woman who rubbed her shoulders and made her tea." "You were kind," Sammy said. "You made her feel human. That's more than most people ever gave her." Amina carefully untied the ribbon and unfolded one of the letters. Zara's handwriting danced across the paper, fluid and warm. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. And if he's brought you this, it means he still has a heart." The words hit her like a wave. "I chose you, Amina, not because of what you did for me, but because of who you are. This world is full of people who see money, titles, power, but you saw pain and didn't run. You saw silence and didn't fill it with noise. You touched without taking. And that's the kind of woman I want Zaid to know." Amina pressed the letter to her chest, her whole body trembling. "Why me?" she asked again, her voice cracking. "Why did you come back now?" Sammy exhaled deeply, walking to the window. Rain streaked down the glass like tears. "Because I'm dying." The words fell with no warning, no preparation. Amina stood in stunned silence. "I was diagnosed last month," he continued. "Pancreatic cancer, late stage. I don't have long." She stumbled backward slightly, the room spinning. "I built everything. Towers, companies, legacies. But in the end, none of it matters. All I could think about was Zara, and what I still owed her." He turned, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. "I came here to find you, to ask if you'd meet Zaid. Maybe be there for him after I'm gone, not as a mother, but as someone who remembers her, someone who can tell him who she really was." Amina didn't speak. She couldn't. Her chest burned with emotion too large for words. Her hands, the same hands Zara once called healing, now trembled as they held the truth of a woman she barely knew, and the weight of a future she hadn't expected. Outside, the storm intensified. Thunder rolled across the city. Sammy stepped forward. "There's more in the box. Letters she wrote to Zaid, pictures, dreams she had for him. I want you to be the one to give it to him when he's ready." Amina finally looked up, voice shaky but steady. "You should be the one to do that. I won't make it." Silence. And then I will," she said. Sammy closed his eyes. A single tear slipped down his cheek. "You have no idea what that means to me." But Amina did. And she had no idea that in less than 24 hours she would meet the boy whose life and future would be changed forever by her answer. The next morning, Amina stood on the whitewashed veranda of a small home in Mombasa. The air smelled of salt and wet palm leaves. It was quiet, except for the gentle hum of waves in the distance and the faint laughter of school children echoing through the narrow alleyways. She had barely slept. Sammy had arranged everything: a flight, a driver, and a small envelope with only the address and a note inside. "Tell him the truth when you feel it's time." His signature beneath the words was shaky. Now, with Zara's box cradled in her arms and her heart heavy with the weight of this moment, Amina raised her hand and knocked on the door. A woman in her mid-40s opened it. She wore a long teal kanga and had eyes that mirrored Zara's, sharp but kind. "You must be Amina," she said. Amina nodded. "And you must be Lila." The woman gave a short smile and stepped aside. "He's in the back, reading." Inside, the house was small and full of life. Books lined the walls, drawings hung on string across the ceiling, and the smell of cardamom tea wafted through the air. This wasn't a billionaire's world. This was a real home. Amina followed Layla through the corridor and into a bright courtyard, where a boy sat cross-legged on a patterned mat, flipping through the pages of a worn science book. His curls bounced as he read, lips quietly mouthing the words. He looked up. Their eyes met, and Amina felt it, that inexplicable connection. Not blood, not obligation. Something deeper, recognition almost. Layla touched his shoulder. "Zaid, this is Miss Amina. She knew your mother." The boy's eyes lit up with curiosity. He stood, polite and poised, just like Zara had once been. "You knew her?" Amina smiled gently. "Yes, I did. She was beautiful, brave, and very funny." He grinned. "She used to sing funny songs when I had bad dreams." Amina knelt down so they were eye level. "That sounds like her." Zaid tilted his head. "How did you know her?" "I gave her massages sometimes. At the clinic where she worked. We used to talk about life and dreams." He nodded slowly, absorbing it like a puzzle piece he didn't know he was missing. Amina glanced toward Lila, who gave a subtle nod and stepped away, leaving them alone. "I brought something," Amina said, opening the wooden box and showing him the photograph on top. "This was taken when you were little." He gasped. "I've never seen this." She kept it close, along with these. Amina pulled out one of the letters. Zaid took it carefully, eyes wide. "She wrote me letters?" "She did. Many. She wanted you to know how much she loved you, how proud she was of you." He sat back down slowly, cradling the letter like it was a treasure. "Why didn't anyone show me this before?" Amina sat beside him. "Because sometimes grown-ups think they're protecting us by keeping things hidden. But your mother wanted the truth to find you one day." He stared at the box again. "And you're the one who brought it." "Yes." Zaid was quiet for a long time. Then softly, he asked, "Are you my aunt?" Amina smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "Not by blood, but maybe by heart. He leaned into her gently, resting his small shoulder against her arm. I miss her. I do too, Amina whispered. They sat like that for a while. No words, just the sound of waves in the distance and the quiet sob of a boy who finally found a missing piece of his past. Later, Layla returned with tea and cakes. They ate together in the courtyard, laughing at stories Zara had told, remembering the smell of her favorite perfume, the songs she sang, the way she danced barefoot when no one was looking. As the sun dipped low in the sky, Zaid looked at Amina seriously. Can you come back tomorrow? I'd love to. Can we read another letter then? Yes. And maybe you can tell me what she was like. Not the sad parts, the real parts. Amina's throat tightened, but she nodded. I'll tell you everything. That night, as she rode back to her hotel, the wind rushing through the window, Amina clutched the now lighter box to her chest. She had not only delivered Zara's final wish, she had become part of a story much greater than she ever imagined. But as she stepped into the dim hallway of her hotel, her phone buzzed. A message from a private number. He collapsed. The doctors say it's hours now. If you want to say goodbye, come back. Her stomach dropped. Sammy was dying, and she was the only person he had left to say goodbye. The hospital room was dimly lit, the steady beep of the heart monitor slicing through the silence like a soft metronome counting down. Amina entered slowly. Sammy lay in the bed, his face gaunt, lips dry, but his eyes still holding that quiet intensity. A private nurse stepped back respectfully. He was alone. He turned his head with effort. You came. Amina approached, tears already brimming. Of course I did. I saw her, he whispered, in a dream. She smiled and said it's time. Amina gripped his hand gently. I gave Zaid the box, she said. He knows her now. He asked me to come back tomorrow and tell him the rest. Sammy's lips curved faintly. He deserves the truth, and someone like you. His voice weakened. There's a will. It's done. I left something for him, and something for you too. Amina shook her head, voice cracking. I don't need anything. Sammy stared at her. But you gave everything. You showed up. You carried her memory. You gave my son peace. Silence. Then, softly, he whispered, Thank you. His grip loosened. The heart monitor slowed, and then stopped. Amina sat still, not letting go of his hand. Not yet. The man who once offered her $1 million for a single night had instead given her something no money could ever buy: purpose. He died in peace, and she would carry the legacy. 1 month later, under the warm Mombasa sun, Zaid sat on the sand with Amina beside him. He read another of Zara's letters out loud, his voice stronger now. People passed, smiled, unaware of the story that brought them here. Later, when they walked back to the house, Amina saw a black car parked outside. A man stepped out with papers. "I'm here on behalf of Mr. Sami al-Rashid's estate," he said. "Are you Amina Njoroge?" She nodded cautiously. The man smiled kindly. "Mr. al-Rashid left you ownership of a wellness foundation in Zara's name, and a message. Use your hands to heal more than pain. Heal lives." Amina's eyes filled with tears. She had never dreamed of riches, of buildings with her name, but now she had something far more powerful, a reason, a story, and a boy who called her auntie every morning. And when Zaid asked that night, "Will you stay here?" she answered with no hesitation, "Yes, baby, I'm not going anywhere."